favorite aspect of the nation known as Kashmir?
I mean, there's that one aspect that stands out to everyone, and that's the beauty. I mean, the valley's gorgeous, and, I mean, it's nicknamed one of the most beautiful places on Earth.
Secret elders of a generation, this world is seldom seen. Talk of days for which they sit and wait, all will be revealed.
I'd have to say my favorite aspect is the historical and political background to this nation. It's a lot of conflict and different events that have occurred over the years.
So, why did conflict arise in Kashmir?
I think it all has to do with the partition in 1947, when the subcontinent was split into India and Pakistan. Now, Kashmir was an important location, and so they were arguing who owns Kashmir.
Kashmir has had a worldwide impact. In a letter to American people written by Osama bin Laden in 2002, he stated reasons he was fighting America is because of its support of India on the Kashmir issue.
So, what are some reasons that the conflicts could still be going on right now?
I mean, one of the reasons is terrorism. India can't take any step against Pakistan without the threat of Pakistan going over there and bombing them. So lives have been lost, there have been wars, and all this just because of territory. It's crazy.
Such a beautiful plot of land. It boggles your mind. You wonder why there's so much conflict in the area over one small territory. I'm sorry. Sheep died.
No, come back. It's okay.
What do you believe to be the central conflict between the two ethnic groups?
I think that without question, religion and politics drive both of these nations to believe that the territory is theirs.
Well, Remy, that is an excellent question. I mean, this can compare to the Jerusalem conflict, because the Jews, they think that Jerusalem is their territory, while the Muslims think that Jerusalem is their territory. So when religion comes into play, it's so hard to stop the conflict, and I think that's where Kashmir stands, because they believe that this land is theirs, and the other one believes that this land is theirs. So I don't think it's ever going to stop.
Tell me rolling. Okay. So right now we are past the ceasefire line. However, we're at a safe distance, so it's not like we're gonna get shot. However, there are Indian soldiers investigating up ahead, so we should just stick to this.
It all basically started in 1947 with the end of the British War. It was partitioned into the Hindu India and Muslim majority state. So in 1947, the Maharaja of Kashmir signs a treaty of accession with India after a Pakistani tribal army attacks. War breaks out between India and Pakistan over the region.
In 1948, India raises Kashmir in the UN Security Council, which in Resolution 47 calls for a referendum on the status of the territory. The resolution also calls on Pakistan to withdraw its troops and India to cut its military presence to a minimum. A ceasefire comes into force, but Pakistan refuses to evacuate its troops. Kashmir is, for practical purposes, partitioned. In 1951, elections in the Indian-administered state of Jammu and Kashmir back accession to India. India says this mistake makes a referendum unnecessary. The United Nations and Pakistan say a referendum needs to take into account the views of voters throughout the formerly Prince state.
In 1953, the pro-Indian authorities dismiss and arrest Prime Minister Sheikh Abdullah, leader of the governing National Conference, after he takes a pro-referendum stance and delays formal accession to India. A new Jammu and Kashmir government ratifies accession to India.
In 1957, the Constitution of Indian Administrated Jammu and Kashmir defines it as part of India.
In the 1950s, China gradually occupies eastern Kashmir.
In 1962, China defeats India in a short war for control of Aksai Chin.
In 1963, Pakistan cedes the Trans-Karakoram tract of Kashmir to China.
In 1965, a brief war between India and Pakistan over Kashmir ends in a ceasefire and returns to the previous positions.
In 1971 to 1972, another Indo-Pakistani war ends in defeat for Pakistan and leads to the 1972 Simia Agreement. This turns the Kashmir ceasefire line into the line of control, pledges both sides to settle their differences through negotiation, and calls for a final settlement of the Kashmir dispute. The agreement forms the basis of Pakistani-Indian relations thereafter.
In 1974, the opposition plebiscite front in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir drops demand for a referendum in return for an extensive autonomy in an agreement with the Indian government. Sheikh Abdullah becomes chief minister, and his political dynasty continues to dominate the National Conference and state after his death in 1982. In 1984, the Indian Army seizes control of the Siachen Glacier, an area not demarcated by the line of control. Pakistan makes frequent attempts to capture the area in the following decades. In 1987, disputed state elections in Indian-administrated Jammu and Kashmir give impetus to a pro-independence insurgency centered around the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front. India accuses Pakistan of fomenting the insurgency by dispatching fighters across the line of control, which Pakistan denies. In 1990, the insurgency escalates after the Indian Army kills about 100 demonstrators at Gwakadal Bridge. Attacks and threats lead to the flight of almost all Hindus from the Kashmir Valley area of the state. India imposes Armed Forces Special Powers Act in Jammu and Kashmir. In the 1990s, the insurgency continues with Kashmiri militants training in Pakistan and India deploying hundreds of thousands of troops in Jammu and Kashmir. Violence against civilians by both sides is widespread. In 1999, India and Pakistan go to war again after militants cross from Pakistani-administered Kashmir into the Indian-administered Kargil district. India repulses the attack, accuses Pakistan of being behind it, and breaks off relations.